This is the James A. McKee Association's Community Conversation on Short Street. So if you thought we were talking about something else, you're on the wrong plane. Let me quickly read the ground rules for how we're going to conduct tonight's meeting. The moderator, that's me, will draw names from a hat to decide the panelists' speaking order. And you can see the names of the panelists. They will be introduced in alphabetical order. The moderator will read the question given to each panelist, and each panelist will have 3 minutes to respond. Who is the timekeeper? Here comes the timekeeper, David Turner, the timekeeper. Right on cue. And so what David's going to do is to warn them. If, David, are you going to tell them when they got a minute to go, or how are you going to do this? Well, just tell me, are you going to do it? All right, we can read upside down. I'm doing all the screens. So 1 minute, you'll get a 1 minute warning, and then you'll get a 30-second warning. But I will tell you that when I went to famous facilitator school, I learned a technique, and if somebody loses track of time, I just move a little closer to them, a little closer to them, a little closer to them. You remember step by step, inch by inch, and generally they get the picture. After all the panelists have spoken, I'm going to recognize those in the audience who have comments. And you can see the podium in the middle, and it looks like Kate Anderson is going to bring that microphone down, or maybe Diane Diller is going to hold the microphone at the podium. You can line up, and you will be called on in the order that you show up. If your comment can be directed to one person, or to the whole panel, but I'm only going to let 2 people answer you, not everybody on the panel. So I'll ask them who wants to answer it. The first 2 hands that go up, if you're asking a question to the whole panel. The panelists will have 2 minutes to respond, and David's going to do his thing there. And someone who has not spoken, if you've been in line before, I will ask you to step aside if someone who has not spoken has a comment first. Does that all make sense? Yes. Okay. So that's how we're going to do this tonight. Who's got the police chief's hat? Well, bring it on up. All right, Kate Anderson is going to tell you some stuff.
So good evening, and welcome to the James A. McKee Association's Community Conversation. I'm Katie Anderson-Kerrigan. I'm the president of the organization. So tonight we present Voices from the Village, Short Street. This is an opportunity to learn more about the effects of the closing of the street and its impact on local businesses, schools, and ordinary citizens. It is our intention to create a forum for civil and respectful discussion. The meeting will be recorded and posted shortly after tonight's presentation to the first to the McKee Association Facebook page, and then to other sites, for example, at Yellow Springs Bulletin Board on Facebook. Joining us this evening is a panel of citizens representing different aspects of our community. Each panelist was given a common question to address. Short Street. They will each have 2 to 3 minutes to respond. At the end of their responses, citizens will have an opportunity to speak. We expect this to be an informative and learning conversation where all can be heard and respected for their opinion. Additional invitations were extended to the village government, which declined to participate or submit a statement. We did receive, however, an email response from a council member which will be read after the panelists have spoken. The Yellow Springs School District was also invited, but had a conflict and could not attend. They have submitted a statement which will also be read at the conclusion of the panel discussion. Our panel and conversation will be moderated by Fred Bartenstein this evening. Fred has lived in Yellow Springs since 1990 and has facilitated numerous McKee Association events, as well as other facilitations in the village. He is a retired organizational development consultant, a profession in which he managed participatory processes for government, nonprofits, and businesses. A little fun thing about Fred is his expertise in bluegrass and country music, about which he has written and edited 5 books. So thank you, Fred, for being here, and we appreciate your moderating this evening.
And a fun fact about Kate Anderson is that she wrote an article for a magazine I edited in the 70s.
Yes.
Okay.
So our timekeeper tonight is Jake Turner, who's seated in the front row, so panelists can see him and easily look for their time prompt. Diane Diller will be in the audience handing the microphone around for her. And we thank both of them for participating tonight also. So the James A. McKee Association, who are we? We are a civic organization dedicated to supporting the Yellow Springs community by creating interesting and informative events concerning community life. We have a McKee Scholarship Leadership Award given to a high school student every year. We have our Community Service Founders Award. We do a cost of living report on the census year, a very important document, and candidates night, which we just recently had on. We are neutral in our approach to subject matter, meaning we do not endorse candidates or issues. Our intention is to inform. Please consider joining us also. There's information at the back table concerning membership, and we'd love to see you. We'd love to have you with us. So. Now, here's our moderator, who's going to introduce the panel and move on with that part of the program tonight. So, Fred?
Great. And if you cannot hear the panelists, just put your hand by your ear, and then they'll bring their mic closer to their mouth. First is Sterling Wright. Sterling, what has been the impact to you or your organization on the closure of Short Street?
I'm not speaking officially for the PTA or the parents or anyone from Yellow Springs schools. I'm speaking as a grandfather who has 2 grandchildren who goes to Mills Line. One is a kindergartner and the other a 2nd grader. So Short Street impacts me daily during the school year because I either take the kids to school or pick them up. Walking, driving, and riding a bicycle. Also, to bring a little perspective, I've been in the community. I grew up here. I live currently in the family home that's been there since the 50s, so I'm well aware of all the ways to go from my house. Walking, running, shortcuts, jumping over fences, through folks' yards. Getting out of school in the winter and have to walk home with your back to the wind. I know that. So my concern is basically the closing of Short Street as far as a car perspective once I drop the kids off, because we have to be very aware now that we don't use the main entrance, which was in front of Short Street, and we use the furthest entrance. Initially, with the backlog, letting kids out, there was no organization. We couldn't block the crosswalks. Kids was getting out in between cars. It was a little crazy. Afterwards, through the diligent work of the principal, it was becoming more organized. So letting the kids out and back in is not a problem. The problem for motorists is when you go from north to south, and you get to that stop sign, and you want to turn left. There's a panel that says, do not block the intersection. So when there are several cars there, you cannot turn. It's dangerous for motor vehicles. So for me, Short Street has been a real handicap.
Thank you. It's appropriate to acknowledge the panel. Philip O'Rourke, what has been the impact to you or your organization on the closure of Short Street?
Thank you for the question. Hello, everyone. Am I too loud? How about this? In between? How about here? This is perfect. All right. So one of the largest impacts of this project has been the opportunity to engage and hear from more members of the community, both from the business community and residents, through a variety of feedback channels, including this forum, from emails, calls, conversations, surveys, the Keep It Vibrant campaign and forums, and more. It's truly been an eye-opening process to hear so many, and I want to be heavy on the word many, perspectives. Understanding the positive impact that this type of project can have on a community vitality is critical from an organizational standpoint. While the concept of envisioning a project like this is not easy, the results have been meaningful so far. In this temporary community space, even with short stints of programming, opportunities were created for multi-generational community members to gather in the heart of downtown and connect with each other in the presence of local businesses in the district. This has been incredible. It offers a small glimpse of what the community space is in its intended purpose. It's no secret that spending trends in the US as well as in Yellow Springs have changed after COVID. Business is not the same, and statistically, many businesses cannot operate under business as usual. That model doesn't work. Changes that affected some downtown businesses persisted through 2024, continued into 2025, and remain today with or without Short Street. While 4 new downtown businesses opened in 2025, alongside one expansion and other highlights, some businesses have yet to regain their footing in response to these changing trends. Here is where the business impact, the biggest impact comes. It is my hope that moving forward remains a collaborative effort, understanding that on February 2nd, this will be before council. Regardless of the outcome on February the 2nd, it is my hope that the economic vitality of our community and our progress are guided by more than convenience and preference. It is my hope that the voices of everyone who has submitted feedback through any channel are viewed as equally valuable as those in this room. It is also my hope that through this pilot process, we as a whole are able to identify and develop even greater strategies for project communication and community collaboration. It is my hope that with the increased interest and awareness of downtown, we all remain committed to understanding that community participation is key, and a thriving economic climate in the heart of the village is necessary, no matter what the next chapter for Short Street may be.
And Jeff Bartosik, what has been the impact to you or your organization on the closure of Short Street?
Let's say what the organization is, because I can't read it even from here. Yeah, absolutely. My name is Jeff Bartosik. I am the branch manager of the U.S. Bank in downtown. So a little background on myself, I've been at the bank for about 8 years. I've been lucky enough to be the branch manager and be part of this community for about 1.5 years now. So while I am very new to the community, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak for a lot of our decade-long clients that have voiced their opinions of Short Street. And a lot of that is what I'm going to talk about today. So before addressing Short Street specifically, just a little context to what has gone on at the branch over the last 1.5 years. Starting September of 24, since September of 2024, the 3 closest branch locations to Yellow Springs have all closed. So we now have clients from Cedarville, Springfield, and Fairborn that now call Yellow Springs their home and their primary location for doing their in-person banking. So as the downtown life and finding parking spots is something we may all be accustomed to, that is something that we have 7,000 households now adjusting to as they come and do their banking in person here. So one little context as far as what's going on with the bank. So when we talk about Short Street, it has been a topic of conversation each day with customers coming in. And I will say that the majority of the comments that have been made to the branch have been negative towards Short Street. And I believe that perception matters. And for many of our clients, I think regardless of how long we park, how far we have to park, whatever that might be, the last thing they see when they walk into the business is going to be the empty lot. And while we have seen great things that have happened in Short Street, when we look at the times that we are open from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, it has been vacant for most of the times when people come in. So we try to stay positive, but that is something that we have battled. Over the past year, we've lost numerous relationships due to the reduction in parking. Not all of those relationships lost can be tied directly to Short Street, but we are at risk of losing deposits and relationships with Short Street and parking being that key pain point that people are talking about. So kind of looking at what the last year has looked like, we fielded over 50 complaints as far as what has gone on. So we have a lead form where we're filing those comments, marking down whenever someone has something negative to say about the project. And there's been a handful that have been positive, but I will say majority have been opposed to the closure. We think about what the branch expectations are. Customer satisfaction is one of those metrics that we are graded on. And we can say that the lower scores have been attributed to the parking in Short Street. So with that being said, the last thing that we really want to talk about is we have, as a branch, we have seen the positives that have come from the events. So we've seen how the community has come together, and it does serve a purpose. Our question would be, is that something that can also be accomplished with temporary closures, whether that be during winter months, or if that is that time frame from June to October for street fair. We do see a purpose for it. We just hope that it is going to be an event center, that if we are going to move forward with the project, that we do see more events during that 9 to 5 time frame. Because as the longer the project goes, the space goes unused, it is harder for our clients to embrace the change. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Roland Eliason is a husband, dad, a villager, and representing the Yellow Springs schools, or just, you explain that. Roland Eliason, what has been the impact to you and your organizations on the closure of Short Street?
Thank you very much. I do not represent Yellow Springs schools, although I do have 2 young children that have had a wonderful experience there over the last 3 years. So, I, for one, have had a very positive experience with the closure of Short Street, both from what I feel is an increased safety measure for dropping my kids off every day at school, to the ability to have events there, hopefully more on a regular basis. When the theater had its celebration this summer, that was one of the happiest times I've seen in the village that involved primarily villagers in and of itself. It was very nice to be able to hang out with other parents and community members, and our kids have a space to hang out and be able to interact in what was and felt very much like a vibrant downtown, which is something that I know everybody has very much been looking forward to having again since the world came crashing down in 2020. On that, from my standpoint, Short Street would need someone who has a very clear vision of what community space looks like and will work very, very diligently to make that happen. I believe it's a key part of our village to have spaces where we can interact and have fun with each other, and that will inevitably attract other people that want to share in our activities, therefore embracing the communities around us. Nothing's perfect the first time. I think we can all agree on that short statement. And if you have somebody in position to drive forward a positive attitude towards Short Street, it could become one of the biggest assets to increasing the overall community joy in our community and in our village. It is central to town, which makes it accessible to a lot of people. This village has a very good walkability aspect to it. I can get anywhere I need to go in about 10 minutes. 5 if I'm really in a hurry and the streets are clear. So I, for one, am a very strong supporter of Short Street staying closed. Like I said, nothing was right the first time. They threw up some safety barricades and you got a tent out there that looks like it used a little help, but if somebody, put some mind to it, it could look really sharp and be somewhere where we could get together for community organizations and community events that really make an impact in this world, and that is something the world very desperately needs right now.
Robert Livecamp is the transportation manager for the Yellow Springs Senior Center.
And probably the least qualified to represent senior center services for this operation. Who's more qualified? There's many sitting here in the audience. We had, our 24 statistics, we had over 16,000 visitors at the Yellow Springs Senior Center. And that's only with 2 handicap parking spaces for the visitors. 2 handicap.
Actually, it's running out of battery. Do you have the other ones?
Are we good?
Is there a way to charge them?
Testing. All right, David. Now, David said he wasn't going to repair anything anymore, so.
There are visitors here tonight that are probably more qualified to speak about the impact Short Street has had on Yellow Springs Senior Center than I have. I go in there and I work. Most of my work involves taking people out of the village. 1,400 trips last year to medical hospital visits and such. But we have, by 24 statistics, we've had 16,000 visitors who entered their visit on our computer system. And we only have 2 parking spaces, both of them marked for handicap parking. So what I have to report is all anecdotal. Certainly Short Street, when it comes up, there is a negative buzz. It has to do with access to downtown, convenient access to downtown. With 59% of our constituents in Yellow Springs over 60 years old, access becomes more and more important. We lost 1 handicap parking space on Short Street. There's one in front of the Yellow Springs Senior Center. And that is consistent concern with our audience, our clients at Village. Other than that, it's dying. We
we have 700 members who all vie for parking places in town.
I'm not sure, maybe with the loss of, got it. Volunteers are coming in and out daily to drive cars, to help at the front desk. Again, we adjust to the changed traffic pattern, but it is a notable interruption in the usual. Lots of activities, like I mentioned today, this year we're trending at about 80 visitors a day. I don't know where they park. They're getting there because of the community that they're building at the Yellow Springs Center. And I think for safety, for convenience, the short street closing does not sit well with our clientele. Thank you.
Teresa Mayer describes herself as a resident.
I'm a resident and I'm a member of the disabled community in town, and I would like to cordially invite the rest of you to join us as you age, because probably about 50 to 75% of you will become an unwanted member of this community. I've been disabled since mid-1980s, and when I broke my neck, and I've gone through lots of different ways of mobility, from wheelchairs to walkers, to canes to walking sticks. So my biggest concern right now is the parking. The parking, I think my voice, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's my teacher voice. I used to be a teacher. So the biggest concern for me is the parking spots. Whenever I came to town, I would almost always park in the handicap spot on Short Street. And with weak muscles and my endurance is really poor. So from what the doctor says, it takes about 4 times as much energy for me to walk the distance of anybody else because of how weak my muscles are. So I usually try to park as close as I can so that I have endurance to enjoy downtown. But as not only the 2 places in front of the bank, but the one in front of the senior center and the one in front of the Winds, they all open onto 68, which is the most dangerous place to have a handicap parking spot. If you know anything about handicap parking, handicapped people want to be as independent as absolutely possible. And if you're using a wheelchair or a walker and you're driving yourself, the best car to have is a 1-door, not a 4-door, or a 2-door, not a 4-door. And those open really wide. And it's nice to have those because you can stick your walker behind your seat. You open the door all the way up, you pull the walker out, you open it up, and you get out, and the truck is coming at you, a semi. And I watched the other day when I went over to see if anyone was using the park, and I saw a lady get out with this beautiful red walker, and right in the middle of 68, and the truck was coming right at her. I went, oh my God, she's gonna get hit. And it is just like the most dangerous place to have a handicap parking spot. Now, I was taught, don't discuss a problem without a solution. So here's my solution, is if you end up going with Short Street, don't have the park come all the way up to the road. The way we did bump outs on the other road to slow down traffic, do a bump in, have 2 parking spots that would be across the end of Short Street where you could pull off, and you would have a car's width of a space that a person who's driving, who's disabled, could get out of the car, get their walker or their wheelchair out, and get in it without getting hit. And I have other suggestions, but I have a 30-minute thing. And if they end up doing a bathroom there, please don't build a bathroom that people with abilities and not disabilities decide is accessible to someone who's handicapped. Please ask handicapped people what they need.
Matthew Kirk is a business owner, Corner Cone.
Good evening. Yeah, my name is Matthew Kirk. I am the current owner of the Corner Cone, a business that's been in this community for, I don't know, 60 plus years now at this point. And I have to say honestly, this project has had no effect on my business because as we've all witnessed, there's nobody at the project. So it can't really have an impact one way or the other. You know, what has been impactful to me about the project is the kind of the lack of coordination with the project and the downtown business community. There's been very little insight sought from the business community, nothing as far as actually planning the project or you know, asking people how things were going as the project. It's just a real lack of communication has happened. I know Marcia and myself attended many council meetings when we talked about whether it was appropriate to continue to keep the closure. And we were acknowledged that the village had made a commitment to the community at large that it was just a temporary project, but there was a reluctance by half the council at that time to want to keep good on that, and really not a lot of explanation as to why the project needed to be kept as such, other than what Roland alluded to, which is that, you know, as with any situation, less traffic is better than more traffic when it comes to things like the school drop-off, you know, which, as we all know, though, is only 15 minutes a day. And I recall at one of those meetings, I asked the chief, well, can't the police just block the street off for 15 minutes a day? They were not capable of that. They said that was a bridge too far, and I think that comes back to the larger communication issue and people, as Roland said, wanting to be positive about this and look for win-wins. I think we're lacking that collaboration when it comes to this project. Because like Roland, I do think there is probably a version of Short Street that can certainly be more successful than what's there now. I think we all can agree to that. But the only way we get to that is if, you know, people actually provide input into the project, and there becomes, again, this level of communication that doesn't really exist. And it has to be a level of trust too, I guess, is what I feel like is missing from this project. A lot of people feel like they were not led in the right direction. I don't want to say lied to, because that may be a little bit strong. But, you know, the village didn't necessarily keep their word on the project. So I have many more ideas. I really love what she said about if we do keep the project, bumping it in so we can get those off-street parking spaces. I think that's really important. I think the other thing, if we want to talk about the project being successful, is shade. I can tell you this is the owner of an ice cream shop. There is a such thing as too hot. It can be too hot. People don't want to go out. And we experienced a lot of that this summer, which is, I think, why the project, amongst many other reasons, probably got off to a slow start, is that it was hot. But that's something we should expect in the summer and plan accordingly. Thank you.
Marshall Waldron owns Ohio Silver Company.
I'm not good at public speaking. I have to refer to notes. But, I'm disheartened that...
Closer to you.
Closer to me. Okay. I'm disheartened that we've been moving ahead with Short Street. It sounded like a done deal when the Old Springs News first announced it, when they started mentioning about the ball drop and trying to calm traffic, pedestrian traffic, which we actually need. We were told it was an experiment from street fair to street fair. I was disheartened there was no study of the traffic pattern prior or a study of the usage during the experiment. We've been told that having a downtown square is helpful for businesses, but what's good for other towns isn't always good for our town. We also had a Dora proposed, and we did not want drinkers downtown. We nixed that. no attempt was made to talk to us directly during the experiment to find out how it was affecting our businesses. A poll was done, it was anonymous, there were people from out of town that participated in the poll. Back during the pandemic, 72 businesses got together and to help each other on a board. So we did communicate, and we did ask what we would like to see. 51% said they would consider an experiment, 17% approved and wanted it, and 65 were not supported, 65%. So we agreed to an experiment if it had a tie into business, that the noise wasn't disturbing, that our parking issues were addressed, and that the activity there didn't compete with businesses. But we weren't checked in with as the process went. The biggest problem I see, I look out the window and there are empty parking spaces that used to turn over all day, every day. I have my customers say, why is that street closed? And the street sits empty. The traffic pattern is what's affected us the most. It's like now it takes 3 turns. A lot of people coming in from out of town used to use Short Street to go back into the business district to get to Walnut Street, to get to Dayton Street. And now they're giving up. Some of them said they just gave up. A lot of people have said they just aren't coming downtown. And some people are using Tom's as a thoroughfare. So to get to Walnut, to circumvent downtown has become very difficult, and it has affected my business.
And as we said at the beginning of the meeting, we do have written communications from the schools and a member of the village council. First, I will read the superintendent's message. Thanks for reaching out. As I mentioned to Mitzi Miller, on the evening of January 21st, I will be at a board governance training session with the board president and vice president. As such, I will be unable to attend, as will these board members. I did send a detailed letter to the village council in October stating the school's position on Short Street. This position has not changed. Ultimately, however, no matter what happens with the decision about Short Street, Mills Lawn School will be in session every day, and the school community will work diligently to keep our children safe. Good luck with this endeavor. I applaud the James A. McKee Association's commitment to critical conversations about issues in the village. The message from October 13th was, as you know, the intersection of Short Street and Walnut Street has long presented safety concerns for students, families, and staff at Mills Lawn School. In years past, our school personnel have had to carefully monitor traffic from multiple directions during the morning arrival and afternoon dismissal times, including vehicles traveling both north and south on Walnut Street, as well as those turning left or south from Short Street. The presence of a crosswalk directly in front of the school and the Yellow Springs Community Foundation offices, located just steps away from Short Street, further compounded the challenge of ensuring safety and smooth traffic flow. Since Short Street has been closed to vehicle traffic this school year, we have seen a marked improvement in both safety and efficiency during arrival and dismissal. The elimination of vehicles turning from Short Street onto Walnut has significantly reduced congestion, confusion, and potential hazards. Our staff can now focus more fully on students rather than on managing unpredictable traffic patterns, creating a calmer and more secure environment for everyone. In years past, we have unfortunately witnessed several instances of near misses between cars and pedestrians, often caused by distracted driving, speeding, or disregard for crosswalk laws. As we prepare for the addition of a district preschool in August 2027, which will bring even younger and more vulnerable students, pre-K through grade 4, to the campus, maintaining the highest standards of student safety becomes even more critical. While the closure of Short Street may not eliminate every traffic concern in the area, it represents a meaningful and measurable step towards safer conditions for children and families. Beyond safety, we have also seen an unexpected but wonderful benefit. Families and students now use the Short Street space after school as a gathering spot to talk, play, and relax. This organic use of the space reflects exactly what a thriving community hub should be, a safe, welcoming place for connection and joy. For these reasons, we wholeheartedly support the permanent closure of Short Street to vehicle traffic and the continued use of this space as a community gathering area. It enhances safety, strengthens our sense of community, and reflects the values we hold dear in Yellow Springs. Signed, Terry Holden, Superintendent, and Megan Winston, Assistant Superintendent. Here's a message from a member of Village Council. Good afternoon. Before anything else, I want to say how much I value the James A. McKee Association and the role it has played in this community over many years. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention your father's steady, positive influence over me, my siblings, and peers growing up. The JAMA has fostered thoughtful conversation, civic participation, and care for our town, and that matters above all else. I'm also encouraged anytime people take the time to engage on local issues and show up for our town. Right now, though, we simply don't have new information to share. Because of that, having staff or council present to engage in dialogue or answer questions at this point would put everyone in a difficult, presumably, position, and could cause speculation about what is going to happen when we have nothing new to offer, and that's something that needs to be avoided. Staff will be presenting their work to council on February 2nd, and council needs to review that presentation first. After that review, we'll be in a better place to continue the conversation in a way that's informed, fair, productive, and respectful of everyone's role. All the best. Now it's time for people who want to... they asked me not to say what council member wrote that. Ms. McKee, do you want me to say? They said no. The McKee's rules. Okay. So there is a microphone. Diane Dillard has it, and it's working. So, Diane, what do you...
Hello, my name is Judith Hempling. So I think the idea of creating another gallery space in the downtown was a good idea. However, what has actually happened, well, I want to say John Hudson's sculpture is beautiful, but I think the effort has not been successful. It's awkward, it's not beautiful, and hardly anybody uses it. I encourage us to turn our eyes to Little Park, or Baby Hughes Park, which is literally less than a minute from the downtown. A few years ago, there was a proposal to turn it into a parking lot because it was being underutilized. So on one hand, we're trying to turn a street, which is extremely hot in the summer, and into a park, and we thought about turning a park into a street. I think if we make an effort to point people towards the park, there's all those beautiful murals back there that a lot of visitors don't even see them. We know they're there, but it's really such a beautiful asset to the village, those murals, and it would be, I think, very easy to make that park into a beautiful gathering place for the community and a place for visitors as well. And they would, then in the process of going back there, they would see all those beautiful murals that our artists have spent a lot of time creating. Thank you.
Before the next person speaks, David, will you give the commenters the 30-second sign and then... Okay, good. All right. All right. 1 minute. 1 minute. Will you state your name, please?
Yes, that'll be great. My name is Amy Anker. I've been a resident for over 50 years. The closure of Short Street has been very inconvenient for me. Not just because of the parking. I would park there a lot too when I live there in downtown, but daily, I'm used to coming downtown and driving up Short Street to go over Walnut, a little circuit I make daily. And it's been very inconvenient. Now I have to go all the way up to the stoplight, the long stoplight, and wait there and then go around. I end up going by the school, driving by the school anyway to go the direction I need to go. So that's my 30-second wording. So I think that's all I really want to say. Is it's just caused great inconvenience to me.
I'm Jerry Papadena, and I'd like to tell you on Judy's comments. We have a severely underutilized public gathering space, a hop, skip, and jump from downtown, and that's Hughes Baby Park. I've often thought that area could be enhanced with a direct connection to the bike path, which is just across the street. A lot of communities have exercise equipment in parks. A shelter house and gazebo would add to that area. And if the Yellow Springs News would be so kind to allow access from the center of the business district down past their place of business through Keith's Alley, it would be a short walk to Baby Hughes Park.
My name is Dustin. I've been in and around town for about 17 years now. I really appreciate what's happened with Short Street. Could have been happening better? Sure, why not? Anything could be happening better. But third spaces are incredibly important. They're disappearing across the country at incredibly, even in our community. I don't think we should be holding to being a parking lot for US Bank because other branches have closed down. I mean, that sucks for other people, but that's not on us. I think there's a lot of options. I honestly think that Keith's Alley could be turned into all those parking spaces, could all be handicap parking spaces. I think it sucks that we have ourselves in a position where we're deciding between community space and handicap spaces. Like, we should be able to do both. And I don't know how many times I've been stuck in a traffic jam because someone's trying to turn left on Short Street off of 68, and I'm sitting in front of Speedway for 10 minutes waiting for that to clear. But that's all I want to say.
Hello, my name's Tyler. I love Yellow Springs very much, I'm sure all of us do. I am a member of the Yellow Springs Hacky Sack community. I want to highlight that the space designated on Short Street is an opportunity for a third place. Not work, not home, but a place where communities can come together and connect with each other. It's a safe spot to hang out and a central location for hacky sack, which is my particular interest. And it's lit even at night. Hacky sack will wear down the earth. We need concrete. It's an opportunity of sorts for a little street fair all the time. There's hacky sack clowns, jugglers, flow artists, poets, musicians, what have you. We get out there, we get moving, and love life. Hacky sack is a very positive community of all sorts that come together and play our casual sport. It is a place to park more important than a place to gather and enjoy life. I want to remind people that cars take up around 10 times the amount of space that a person does. So I think it's also important that we have places for people to come together and do what they love. I recognize that any change calls for adjustment, and I hope we will work together and find a way that suits everyone. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Kurt Rowe. I live in Clifton, and I have a choice. I can go to Cedarville, or I can come here. And over the last few months, I easily choose Cedarville because I know I can get parking, no problem. Because I've been parking on Short Street for about 26 years. I appreciate what everybody's had to say here. Teresa, I hear you big time. That would really feel better being out on Short Street. But the businesses, I'm all about, if you don't have the businesses, you don't have a downtown. And I could just, my heart breaks for you, Marcia, to feel like we haven't spoken and listened to you and Matt too. But also remember, what an opportunity. They closed 3 U.S. banks and brought all those people here, and we can't find a place for them to park. So remember, U.S. Bank does not have to stay here, and I guarantee they're looking for that. So one free open space coming soon to you, look at the U.S. Bank parking lot. That's probably, if they move out, there'll be some open space for you there. So I'm 100% behind the business. Whatever you guys want, I want. My feelings are not meaningless. So thank you.
I'm here because the businesses have been complaining, and it sounds like there's not been enough communication between the village shutting down Short Street and the businesses, and that should have been a first priority. I'm also concerned because I want a community gathering space, like I want a piazza in my town too. Oh, I want a piazza in my town too. But to block a street when we have 90, 190, 200 homes out there and that are getting built, and more traffic will be coming into the apartments, the Windsor apartments as well. This is a bad time to eliminate parking, but I do agree that it's a wonderful place to have temporary things like New Year's Eve or the Halloween or the movie, which is a wonderful celebration. And I've just seen big box trucks parked there up against those concrete barriers. They're parking there. So I don't think anybody handicapped would be able to park there if they're using it for truck deliveries for the businesses, because they don't have anywhere else to go.
Hello, I'm Dan Kaufman. I'm also a member of the Yellow Springs Hackensack community. We play on Short Street for several hours, 2 to 3 times a week. I hear a lot of people say in council meetings and hear that no one is ever using the space, but we can't be there all the time. But it's hours. It's a lot of hours every week, and it helps us to embody the spirit of Yellow Springs as I understand it. This place is supposed to be a community where you can get together and you can you can come together and have a break from the thing that we all have to deal with, you know. And if there's no foot traffic, Short Street is perfect for us because, if there's no foot traffic, we can't share it with anybody. We get to share it with people that come by, that see us. And I know people see us. It's crazy when they say there's no one there. I would like to add the bump in. I love the bump in idea. The barricades, if you move the barricades in on both sides, you can have pull-in parking. You can have a lot more parking spots, 4 to 5 on each end, and I think that would also add a lot
hand right. Lived here for 35 years. I've been heavily involved with the community, volunteer paramedic for the fire department, currently volunteering for Glen Helen. I was campus nurse RN for Antioch College for 5 years. I love this community. You know, a year or so ago, when it was planned for the concrete park on Short Street was announced, the village council, village manager gave us their word that after the fall street fair, the Short Street would be reopened. So it's returning. Carmen and Gavin on our council kept the word and voted to reopen it. Brian and Kevin broke their word and voted to keep it open. That was not honest to us. This has been a dead space for 3 months. There's been nobody out there for 3 months. We've lost 15 parking spaces and a thoroughfare to go back and forth to the western residential area from downtown. And so instead, there's a lot of cars driving through Tom's parking lot. That's causing danger to pedestrians in the parking lot. So much more than Mills Lawn. You know, the previous police chief used to be at Mills Lawn every single morning for the kids. Our police chief is not involved in our community like she should be. She should be out there helping. And so far as people gathering from Mills Lawn, my goodness, they have a huge grass space around the school. That's where they should be gathering. And downtown in the summertime, we hardly ever see anybody in the short space. We see dozens of people sitting around and talking and gathering at Current Cuisine, Mizzou's, Tom's, and King's Courtyard downtown, and then nobody, maybe one or two in Short Street. I'm sorry. Yes, we tried this experiment, but it has been a failure. And again, the last 3 months, it's been a dead space, especially in November, December, when we have thousands, tens of thousands of people coming to shop here who had nowhere, lost those 15 parking places. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Cindy O'Wenning. I live on the south side. My first comment is, yeah, 5 years ago, I could walk the whole downtown in 10 minutes too. I could walk a mile downtown and shop and walk back home. I can't do that anymore. And I'm going to be able to do it. It's going to take me longer and longer every year since because of health issues. Every one of you is going to live long enough to get disabled at some point if you're lucky. Every one of you. When I first heard about this project, I thought, well, this seems like a good possibility. But it's become a big financial irresponsibility at this point. There was no input, there was lack of transparency, and just now the city council sends a letter, but they don't sign who they are. More lack of transparency. We need more parking, we need our downtown businesses, we need good traffic flow. If we lose our downtown businesses, we lose our downtown. And that is our most crucial thing. They should have been the most important people that were talked to and discussed about this whole thing.
Susan Alberto. I too would like to have a community gathering space in town. I love those European cities that have them and places in the United States. And I assume that they are usually planned. And I feel as if the Short Street experiment was an idea that was just put there without input. And in terms of planning, we now have the hardware store in the hands of the Development Corporation. They're going to be looking for the best use for that property, and I would assume that whoever takes over that would probably have a vested interest in what is right beside them. Whether it is a closed space that they might be able to utilize, or whether their business might require some kind of pass-through there. So I would hope that whatever decision would be made in light of what eventually is going to go into the hardware store. Thanks.
thanking you for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I just want to say I understand both sides of this discussion. I mean, there's pros and cons. I think we all can admit that. On one hand, creating this central gathering space can bring people together. Like Philip said, it supports events and strengthens our downtown. On the other hand, I understand the very real business concerns and from residents. My son, I have 2 boys that went to Mills Lawn as well, had to deal with the traffic flow there. I'd like to just suggest or ask the panelists, because we haven't actually asked you guys anything yet, is there not a middle ground that might be able to achieve both goals? And I say that just because I know there's nearby cities. Let's just use Dayton, Oregon District as an example. I know they shut down that street with retractable or temporary blockades, intentionally to bring business to those local businesses. So obviously the collaboration is lacking and that needs to be improved on. And maybe the scheduling, having street vendors more prevalent and things going on, more activity on the location. But I think core business hours, it would make sense that it's open and then you can schedule, organize events and still block it and get the best of both.
Two of you that would like to respond to the question, is there a middle ground?
Thank you for, and that's a really great question. It depends on what you want the street to be. So, in my perspective, one of the things that's challenged here is we see a closed street. Depending upon what's on the street will determine what's exactly there. The goal of Short Street is not to be a closed street, it's to be a community gathering. So when we talk about all of the input that has been given already, when it comes to sales, when it comes to trees, what's the ground going to look? It's not going to look like, the goal is to take all of that feedback, and it's not going to look like a closed street. It's going to be active. I, for one, am a proponent, and I've said this before and I've said it publicly, I'm a proponent of it being closed permanently because the reason for that is it's not supposed to be a drive-through street as well as something else. The goal is for it to be a community gathering space that's designed and it's completely different. Everybody's talking about the aesthetics. I don't like it because of how it looks. That's understandable. Sidebar, it's ugly. You know what I mean? But if, one of the things that we're asking for, and it's very difficult, one of the things that we're asking for is to cast vision. And I think this is where February 2nd comes in. What is this space going to look like outside of what my concept of this temporary space can be? I don't think for this to be effective in this community based on all the stats, it will be as successful as it is if we have barricades drive through, barricades drive down. It needs to be something that you invest in, that the community sees himself in, and it's a permanent space that has the opportunity to also feature events, but it needs to be something no matter what's going on there. And I think that's the challenge.
I think one of the issues is that a lot of people are viewing this matter as a kind of either-or situation, right? Either we're going to return it and it's just going to be a street as it's been, or it's going to become something that's completely not a street, as Phillips talked about. When I think it's it's hard for any of us to say, you know, what would that be? And I don't necessarily think that we have to arrive at that binary decision right now. It's okay to embrace incrementalism. It's okay to say, let's start off and make this a gathering, a temporary space where it is convertible. And it could be that we have so much desire to use the space that it becomes something that, hey, maybe we should consider making this permanent. You know, I think it's okay to have that approach. We're struggling with that a little bit, it seems like. I know that I feel like there's definitely been some reluctance from the village staff that I've observed in meetings and conversations. You know, like, again, village staff and the police did not want to reopen the street, even though that was the original commitment. And again, that's, I think, this reluctance to embrace a middle ground, which is to say, we know that we like having a party there. You know, and make it so that it's convertible for that. I do have some ideas if we were going to make it permanent, that would be helpful, but again, it's about, is there a middle ground, right? And I don't necessarily think permanent at this juncture is a middle ground. It will be controversial, I believe, if that's the choice.
Marcia, brief comment?
My brief comment would be that in 2018, a beautiful space was designed by Nadia Malarkey to be in Beatty Park, and it was to provide runoff from the water in Keith's Alley. It would have had a pavilion. It has grass and trees and beautiful plantings, and it would have provided a community gathering space. The plans were made, it was approved by council, it was announced in the Yellow Springs News, and then it was never carried out. And it's sad to me that that didn't happen.
Hello, my name is Leslie Shaker. I have lived in Yellow Springs, owning a home, since 1992, raised my son here. Prior to that, for about 10 years, came every weekend running in the Glen Helen, and John Bryan State Park. I would appeal, I bow to God in each and every one of you present tonight. I would invite all of you to not be emotionally attached, to remain emotionally detached. Consider every point of view, look at it objectively, and because if I had my son were still in nail salon, I would be pro nail salon. If I had a business, I would definitely be close the street, because look at what is the overall objective. The village businesses are dying out. When I used, for many years, Yellow Springs is so thriving. You want to come here, eclectic shops, different from what you can find anywhere else. Open-hearted and conscious community. So I really appeal to everyone to think what is the broadest picture, and I think it is to have a thriving downtown. I think it's very important. I think that everybody is quite capable of using this short street as an opportunity to look at other problems and areas that can be solved in groups. Mills Lawn, why not consider it being moved away? That's time for me to get off. But I'm just saying, if you can vision it, it can be. But it takes cooperation, working, and there's so many changes that need. Parking, however, I do feel is a priority. So I am in this moment, as I speak, pro getting the businesses to thrive.
Good evening. I'm Gary Zaremski. I'm a longtime resident of the village. I have one quick, slightly tangential thing I wanted to bring up. I always heard that New Speedy Park maybe was set up with restrictions for its use. It's a quiet, peaceful picnic type of area, and there might be restrictions in terms of what you do with it otherwise. I'm not sure. Might be worth looking into. Anyway, I've always thought the idea of having a central downtown plaza is a tremendous idea. However, obviously, there's been a lot of issues that have been brought up, okay, a lot of concerns, legitimate concerns. I was an engineer for 40 years. I take an approach. You have a goal, a challenge, an issue. You define options. You define options. You collect data. You analyze the data, and then you make conclusions. I'm seeing a lot of people presenting conclusions without data and emotional conclusions. In some cases, you can collect data and sort things out. There's certain things that are just emotional that you can't collect data on, but I'm not seeing a robust process having developed by virtue of who's at this get-together and who's not. To me, just screams of this not being, that we don't have a robust process in addressing this. And I'm not sure how to rectify that, but I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
going north. I would like to see Short Street being returned to traffic and parking in this way. One way westward with a right turn only at Walnut Street. That would address all of the traffic concerns, safety concerns. I would like the parking to be not parallel, but diagonal, which is much easier for people to use, including handicapped. It's not ideal for handicap, but it's much easier and safer than parallel parking. Thank you. Right out here is a nice space which is used during the street fair. People use it. That could be a gathering place. And right across the street is a park which could be used as a meeting place. Thank you.
I am Luan. I am also a long-term resident of Yellow Springs. I love Yellow Springs. And I want to state right out that I am totally against the permanent closure of Short Street. I think it's fine for certain functions like street fair. The one time that the little art had a function to open the marquee, that was one time. So we don't need a permanent closure for a one-time event. I guess if I go by Short Street at least twice a day to go from my residence on the north end of town to the south end of town. I look down Short Street, I never, hardly ever see anybody there. So I don't think it's being used the way it was intended. I think this is a failed experiment, and we need to just close it for special events and keep it open for traffic normally. And when there's Mills Lawn is having students come in or out, I often get stuck there and I can't turn away down Short Street to get out of the way. So it becomes a bottleneck for somebody like me who's using North Walnut to get into the other end of town. Either way. So I would like to see the permanent closure erased, please.
Jonathan Platt. Been a resident here on and off for 30 years. And I have a nonprofit called Story Chain. I love the closed Short Street. I think it's amazing. I actually put up a tent there and offered people to donate books from the community. I got 1,800 books in 1 week from people from in town and people from out of town. And those books now are in prisons, working with parents of the incarcerated. These are all children's books, and I was very specific about the books. But what it said to me was, what a great place for a nonprofit to pop up and share their mission with the rest of the community. And I can't wait. I don't play hacky sack, but I can't wait to come out there again and have another idea that the community can share with me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Mullen from the Yellow Springs Senior Center, and Robert, who's sneaking off. He was here despite a family obligation, so thank you, Robert, for being here and for speaking up for our members. Also, I wanted to thank Teresa specifically because if you don't know, my office window opens up on the Xenia Avenue. So I'm watching that traffic all day long. I'm doing the whole, oh, there goes another semi-truck. Oh, there goes somebody that's getting out of the car and will they be safe? So yes, having the safest possible access for people getting in and out of their cars is very important. Because 40% of our population is over the age of 60 right now. On that note, though, what I am witnessing, and I don't hear anybody else talking about it, so maybe you all aren't seeing it, but I've seen so many U-turns on Xenia Avenue. I don't know if Marcia's seeing that from your business window. I don't think people are patient. I think people are in a hurry. I think it's the most dangerous space to make a U-turn. I've also seen people coming out of Thomas Market the wrong way. And that is even more of an issue than for the pedestrians who aren't expecting a car coming that way, and for the other cars that are trying to get in, and for the customers of Thomas. So I would really beg for a traffic study to be done thoroughly. And both when it's open and when it's closed. Open it again so you watch the patterns.
Hi, I'm Carol Cotton. I'm a 43-year resident of Yellow Springs. And both of our kids went all through the Yellow Springs schools. And at the time, I would say there's about a fourth of the car traffic in front of Mills Lawn on Walnut Street that occurs today. Kids rode their bikes or they took the bus. And nowadays, you don't have to go up and down the street many days to see this huge group of cars. And I'm wondering, why hasn't that been resolved 10 years ago or 20 years ago, whenever this flood of cars dropping kids off and picking them up on the streets? I recognize some people come from out of town, that's fine. But, I just felt like that was never really an issue. And if it is an issue, safety-wise, there's a whole, square city block where other drop-offs could be. We picked up kids out of a very good school in San Antonio, Texas, and you get in a line on a street, and you drive up, and you say their name, and somebody's standing there, and they send the kid out, and you're on the right side of the street by the school, and nobody's crossing the street, no parents are going out there to talk to people. If you have a meeting and you want to talk to somebody, you park your car in the school parking lot, and you go in and talk to them. So I feel like there are so many ways that could be made safer that have nothing to do with Short Street. I'm very opposed to Short Street being closed. The whole idea of pull-in parking in cut-ins in the street so that people back out onto Walnut or US 68, I find that terrifying. So that's my opinion.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pam Canine, and I'm here tonight to read a statement from another resident who couldn't be here this evening, but she wanted to have her voice heard. This is from Terry Graham. Terry lives in the yellow house at the corner of Winter Street and Elm Street. She gets a commanding view of the side of Mills Lawn. She gets a wonderful view of angling over at Short Street, and this is what Terry wanted to have shared tonight. As a resident of Yellow Springs who lives on Elm Street, Short Street is part of my neighborhood. I want to share some observations on the closure of Short Street to use as a community space. First, I will share my observations of the use of Short Street as community space. It's nice to have a community gathering area in the middle of downtown Yellow Springs. It's been utilized for a variety of purposes, including performances, celebrations, and eating. The use has been sporadic, but I imagine as time goes on and people are more aware of it, it will be utilized more, oh dear God. I think making it more inviting will help. The barriers in portable bathrooms do detract from the ambience. That's a big complaint I hear, and I agree with the unsightliness of the current composition and configuration of barriers in portable bathrooms. The second comment I have is on the closing of Short Street to local traffic. Complaints I have heard include not liking to have to go down to Dayton Street or Limestone to access downtown, and the parking along Elm Street limits the visibility of oncoming traffic when using the crosswalks, making crossing Walnut Street more dangerous. I agree with this as I cross Walnut Street daily to downtown businesses. I walk my grandchildren to school almost every day, and these are my observations on school drop-off. Most access drop-off by coming from Dayton to Elm, Limestone, trying to turn from Short Street to Walnut Street on school drop-off and pickup times was close to impossible because of the lines of cars present by those purposes. My daughter, who has a child at Mills Lawn and is a member of the PTO, has not heard any negative comments from parents regarding the closing of Short Street and the impact on drop-off pickup of their students. It appears that the closing of Short Street has had a minimal impact on pickup and drop-off. Thank you very much.
I too am reading a statement from someone who was ill and couldn't be here tonight, Mariah Johnston.
Kitty, closer.
Closer. This is, again, Mariah Johnston speaking. It's no secret that small businesses all over the country are closing at alarming rates. Even prior to current economic issues, small businesses have had an uphill climb to be sustainable and must close within the first 2 years of opening. Look around at our neighboring communities. Most small towns stripped of bakeries and bookstores have long gone ghost towns or replaced by sprawling commercial shopping centers. Yellow Springs put its eggs in the basket of tourism, and that decision has forever shaped our village. Its workforce and its economy. Why then have we decided to put forth a plan that does not aid many of our businesses in the main area areas that they need help? As soon as a single downtown business said the closure of Short Street was negatively impacted, we should have halted the plan for closure and brought back to the drawing board. Why would we risk losing any more of our small businesses? What cost do we pay as a community that says it supports local, if we ignore the pleas of the businesses most impacted? Where do our values lay, and why are we so fast to discredit the voices of our business owners, managers, and workers? And how sustainable is our sense of welcoming community space or creating a further car congestion downtown with traffic gridlocks at all our main downtown intersections? What we do know about our downtown business, what do we know about our downtown business? We know streets are packed on weekends during warm months. We also know that crowds do not equate to increased sales. Our restaurants, who have notoriously been packed on high tourism days, are still financially struggling. The idea that closure on Short Street would offer additional seating for carryout dining was a nice thought, but not based in any understanding of restaurant work, let alone our restaurants and their particular challenges. Most of our downtown sit-down restaurants have small kitchen spaces, which allow for fewer staff to make longer preparation times. I've worked in and with the food industry for 20 years, and Yellow Springs food businesses have some of the longest waiting and sitting times of any surrounding area. One of the main complaints from tourism here is how hard it is to eat in town when it's busy. Our restaurants have limitations beyond seating. Creating outdoor communal seating only increases the amount of strain on our kitchens. How many to-go orders can be accepted before overall service suffers? Business owners know about how tumultuous that can be. Anyone working in the shops downtown know the chief complaints from tourists and locals alike: parking. It is and has always been about parking. Business rely on local business too, and we don't get it due predominantly to lack of convenience and accessibility. Shops that offer local services would come extinct if we continue to cut off access to these shops. Most locals avoid downtown weekends during warm months. The traffic is backed up, road visibility a mess from all the congestion, and getting in and out of local shops becomes enough of a hassle that they opt out entirely. Not to mention our senior population, many of which cannot manage walking much distance, even if they're not equipped with a handicap parking sticker. When businesses are upset about, I hear it.
I think we gotta stop.
Okay.
There.
Okay, let me just see if there's anything we can mention. Please give our businesses a chance to fight for survival and prioritize the fabric of this community over the potential for performative change under the guise of progress.
Hi, I'm Mary Beebe. I'm a Yellow Springs resident, relatively shorter amount of time, just 7 years. I'm another voice in supporting the people who feel that Short Street needs to be a through street for our businesses, for our downtown, parking for the people who need to park closely. The alternative spaces are farther away. I think the school drop-off can be solved by great minds coming together. That can be done, you know, whether the police need to be involved, whether paid crossing guards need to be involved, whether right turn only, it can be solved, absolutely. And I strongly believe in having a community space on a temporary basis for a night. That can so easily be done for nonprofits, for art, for poetry, for dance, for theater, for music, for all the reasons I can't think of right now. Temporary closure, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Priscilla Moore. I've been a resident since 1971. I've been involved in 3 different businesses here. Coms, which turned into DG's, was a restaurant uptown that was where people gathered. They could bring the children, the parents could enjoy themselves. I mean, there's other places you can gather than outdoors in the park. Also, I owned Mr. Pope's Party. I started in 1981, so I was a downtown resident at that corner for 36 years. And Marcia and I both know how valuable that street is. And Mr. Buff, as my business grew, I had to have deliveries, semi-deliveries. And we tried to plan it, and know they were coming, drew them on Short Street, we'd be out there, we'd unload, and we'd be gone. So I think it is very important to business. The other thing is, I worked at the senior center as a financial manager for 10 years. I was much younger then, and I saw how the population was aging. I didn't consider myself part of it. Now I am, and I definitely need to be able to walk the downtown easily. You can also have more benches on the street, you know? Don't let the tourists bully us. It's our village, you know? So that's all I have to say, but I think I have a really good background in observing the village.
Let me, seeing that Robert is standing at the podium when he has already been up here, here's what I'm going to do, Robert. You're going to start by making a final comment, and then I'm going to go down the row and let each person say something. But let's all keep it brief because there are 19 minutes left in this meeting.
Thank you, Fred. Well, I'm speaking as residents, Robert Labcap now, and I'm as a transportation manager. It's aggravating to have Short Street closed because I usually park back in the alley, and it's changed my whole pattern of travel through Village Springs. But I'm for the permanent closing of Short Street. I think the idea, though it's closed to traffic, it's not yet open for pedestrians. It's not a park. I imagine green grass and trees and shade, a cooling effect on downtown, and for the loss of 12 parking places, I think will increase the carrying capacity of what Village Springs can do for businesses as far as people interacting with the downtown area. Visitors are already kind of showing us the way forward for parking. They're streaming out 68 North. They're at Cemetery parking lot. They're using John Bryan more often. And maybe biased because of how often I'm shuttling people out of town, having a shuttle service of some kind might be the infrastructure we need to get people downtown of all kinds. Our residents as well will avoid downtown on weekends and certainly during the fairs. I don't have the answer for how shuttle service would work. I think there might be something there to consider. Again, increasing the carrying capacity, Towns are now designing 15-minute walkable spaces to increase traffic for businesses, not take it away, but increase traffic to businesses. And I think we've got a community that could look into that further. So, thank you.
David, let's hold these comments to 2 minutes.
Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. You know, one of the things that is necessary to note and to remember is that not just this feedback, but all of the feedback that has been gathered since June when this started is all compiled, all heard. And what we're looking what I'm looking forward to is seeing the presentation that is going to be presented so we know what the actual option is, what is being presented to us. We've heard a lot of the same concerns. The Yellow Springs Chamber had the same concerns. What's the management going to look like? What's parking going to look like? What's the programming going to look like? What is this that we're talking about? So a lot of the things, although passionate here, these are not surfaced as new. In addition, I applaud and I thank all of the businesses, both on this panel and that I have spoken to just in general. The downtown businesses don't have a unified voice, let me just say that. It's very similar. Everybody has a similar experience. Downtown businesses are the same as the community. But we're all passionate about what makes us grow. So I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate having the opportunity to be here. I would also encourage all of you to know that all of the feedback that's being presented, hopefully, this is my expectation, will go into the presentation that we see. That is going to be the benchmark of how the support continues. Has this been addressed? It shouldn't stop here. It should stop when it gets to the next phase. What does that look like? Whether open or closed, have the questions been answered? So again, I appreciate you all so much for sharing your passions. And I also want to say as I close, just because you don't hear voices here, I hear people quietly clapping in support of Short Street. And I hear people loudly clapping in opposition to Short Street. This is the experience that I have online. This is also the experience that I see. But the people that are quietly clapping, for some reason, there's this disconnect and they feel like they can't say anything out loud about supporting Short Street. And I'm not saying do it. What I'm saying is it's easy to say I don't want something versus and be that voice. So I just want to make sure that we have a balanced view of what all voices looks like. All voices are not saying anything. All voices are not in this room. And all voices are not represented up here. Do you understand what I'm saying? Thank you.
I want to be clear. James A. McKee Foundation, and there's other direct family members, Mr. McKee, Jeannie, Sandra, there are children. We got cousins up here. I'm a family member. We've been here since the 1800s. Let's be real. I'll be as honest as I can. First, I couldn't give my opinion, now I will. The majority of individuals that live in Yellow Springs are aging. We're debating about kids that we don't have anymore to go to schools. My grandkids go. My kids already went, just like I have. We have made the sacrifice to pay more taxes for the schools where our kids don't go anymore. We're debating about Short Street that belongs to Yellow Springs residents, to block it off for a majority of people who aren't from Yellow Springs. We pay the taxes. If I have a dog and invite him in my house, he won't sit on the couch. Excuse me. Time has come to be real. Yellow Springs has went from a community where you could get a job and work here to a community that when you become 18 or 20, you can't live here anymore because you can't get a damn job. So why do we have to be inconvenienced where we have to use the bank, parking at night to get to 68, and use Tom's Market, which is a private entity, to leave 68 because people have decided without asking us what you want to do with our street. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to thank the association for inviting me tonight. It is an honor to sit here as the voice of the community, even with my short tenure compared to some and long compared to others. From my viewpoint, I hope we can work together towards something that is beneficial towards the community, and everybody come at it with an open mind and look for the future, which is where we're always trying to get. I hope the businesses can get together and talk amongst themselves, and I hope the residents can get together and everybody at the end of the day, no matter what ends up happening, can accept a decision and go from there. Because there are going to be people that are upset, there are going to be people that are happy, but it's just a street. No, hold on. The village is consistent of the people. If they'd have never put this street in, we wouldn't be sitting here. But we still have some, we got Tom's on the bulletin board ahead of us. There's, businesses need help getting people in town. So, at the end of the day, there needs to be a resolution. I'm not the one to do it, I don't sit on council. But I hope everybody can at least move past the issue once it's done and get back to being village.
Well, I've had my business downtown for 5 decades, and the entire time parking has been an issue. There are people that have done studies that have gone and counted spaces instead of in September, our slow month, and said there's enough spaces downtown. But in fact, the urban development people at Wright State did two paid studies, and I think one OU of our parking situation. And what they came up with basically was that our businesses don't locate here because of the lack of parking, and businesses that are here can't thrive because of our lack of parking. And there was 2 very good solutions created when Karen Winfrey was on council for streetscapes. One was going to be behind Mills Mullen, and it was beautiful. It had plantings, it had parallel spaces. Again, there was another one on Quarry Street. And it got abandoned, and when the businesses, the 72 businesses came together during the pandemic, we approached council and asked if this could be enacted. We asked for our parking to be dealt with, and that's when we did get the space, the parking lot on, Cemetery, and we did get some extra parking here at Bryan Center. But there were objections. The citizens objected to having it near their houses on Walnut Street, so that was shot down. And the Glen really was afraid they wouldn't get the money from the people that park at the Glen, so that was shot down. But those 2 things, one of the things is our villagers get pitted against our visitors. And our visitors are not all tourists. Half of my business is Yellow Springs. And the other, I'd say 5% is actual tourists. So basically, our parking problems, and I've heard that over and over tonight, could be solved. And I think the village manager, he knows what they are, and he is saying that he would like to solve them. So I would urge people to try to get that done.
I'd also like to thank the McKee Association for convening us all here this evening to talk about this topic. I think it's something that's been important to the community on a lot of people's minds for the past year without really having an opportunity to come out and be heard. So thank you to them for that. One thing I think that's crucial for us as a village to start doing is find a way to win without losing. And I say that because it seems like there's a number of topics, and I don't want to go into every single one, but often we have ideas where in order for there to be an achievement made, it has to come at a loss to somebody else. And we've talked about, such as what Marsha brought up earlier and in previous plans about Baby Hughes Park. You know, investing in something like that is an obvious area that if we made that park better, how many people would have an objection to that? I can't think of anybody in the community who would be screaming about how we made the park a place where you could go eat lunch or, you know, play with your kids or whatever. You know, have a gathering, have a little mini concert or something on a nice afternoon when the weather's good. Have a hammock to read a book. You know, no one would complain about that. But when the project has to be, hey, we're going to close the street, obviously there's going to be a lot of people that have something to say about that. And so part of this is we're not picking the right opportunities to go after, and that makes success really hard. So I would encourage the council to, again, like I said, try to find a way to win without losing. You know, because right now the trajectory that this project is on, I don't see any scenario where people are, in an overwhelming majority, happy one way or the other. People are going to be divided on this. And regardless, there's this plan coming out in a couple weeks. I don't know what it's going to be, but I know it's not going to be free, right? Which likely means that somebody's going to have to fund it, and it's going to be the people in this room and our friends and neighbors. And so, you know, we need to have something that people can, you know, get behind. And we're just not, we're not doing that right now. Sorry, I should wrap this up a little better, but yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for inviting me to talk on behalf of U.S. Bank. So I think I'm in a very unique position here. I'm here for the people of Yellow Springs. I myself, I'm from Beaver Creek. I grew up in Kettering, so I don't have the ties to Yellow Springs. The year that I've been here, I've met some fantastic people. So I think it's important for us, ever since I got started banking, it's always been about people that come into the branch. They may not be Yellow Springs people, but they're Yellow Springs U.S. Bank people to us. I think that's what's unique, is we see people from all over Greene County coming in here. We try to be good stewards of inviting people out to local businesses while they're here. Yes, we're upset, we're frustrated. We talk about the street closing. For the past year, we've been the only people that have gone to the same branch for 40 years, and now they're coming here. So there's been lots of changes, lots of ways of adapting. And U.S. Bank will adapt, regardless of where the street opens, closes, whatever that is. We will adapt, and we'll find a way to survive and do really well in the community. So everything I said today talks for the people of Yellow Springs. For me personally, not coming from U.S. Bank, but being as an outsider coming into Yellow Springs, when I think about Yellow Springs, I want to get away. I want to go to Glen Helen, I want to go out into nature. That's the part I want to be. And then I want to come in, I want to shop, I want to go to some of the small businesses, I want to go eat locally also. But I don't know, as an outsider, if I would see that area downtown as an area that would be a destination for me. Be like, oh, this is kind of unique, this is a little bit something different, but I want to go out, I want to be in the forest, I want to go look at birds, I'm a bird watcher, so that's where I want to be. So if I'm looking as an outsider coming in, that's my opinion on it. That there's so many great areas around town, that downtown has a purpose, and I think the surrounding area has a purpose also.
Besides being part of the disability community, I'm also a member of Village Artisans, which is one of the shops here in town. And one of our biggest problems is people want to go to the bathroom. And we don't have public bathrooms. People who have to go to the bathroom, who are senior citizens or disabled, you can't tell them to walk a block and a half down to the train station to go to the bathroom. It's not going to work. They will not come back. You'll lose that sale, and they won't make it before they have to go to the bathroom. So, part of the park, I heard they were going to put a bathroom. I would love to see the bathroom happen in the space behind the old school, but not necessarily the park. If you've got a limited budget, pick your priorities. I think a the public bathroom is much more important than the park. And I think as a person with a disability, they teach you how to adapt and change and adapt so that you can survive. Well, for businesses to survive, they need to adapt. We need to have public bathrooms. We need to have good parking. We need to have places for people who are senior citizens. And our town is over 50% senior citizens where they can park and walk. I can't walk the whole town in 10 minutes. I'm lucky to walk 1 block in 10 minutes. So, and I just wanted to say the parking that I was suggesting, if they go with the park, I can adapt to any of that. I've learned how to adapt in the last 40 years. I wouldn't do head-on parking ever and back out in the 68. I was thinking of it just being a bump-in, pull-off, parallel parking, just like the rest of them. It just, you would have much more room to open your door. So, I don't know, just as a town, I think we're getting old and older and older, and we have to learn how to adapt and work together to make this life work.
Well, this is the end of our evening. And I would like to, again, thank this panel for being brave enough to show up and speak. Thank you. I'd like to thank Fred for signing in. The timekeeper with whom we could never do without. Microphone and so thank you all of you for doing that. Most of all, I would like to thank you all. I would like to thank you all for coming. For sitting here and taking the time to talk about a very important issue, and have an opportunity to say something. You know, we haven't been having much opportunity to say something lately. So thank you for coming. We hope you learned something, hope you have a better understanding of the issue. Now, if you are one of those quiet voices that Philip was talking about, or if you're a noisy one, let your representatives know. There are many ways you can contact the people who represent you and let them know what you think, what you expect, what you would like to see. So you can write a letter to council, you can email them, you can phone call them, you can show up in person. They love that. Show up in person. And tell them what's on your mind, or let them know what you hope they will do. And so that's what democracy looks like. So thank you again for coming. We would appreciate it if you could take a couple minutes and help us clean these chairs up, put them away. That would be appreciated. One little side note, I think it's important to say that the fact that we chose not to deal who that council person was the decision of the James A. McKee Association. So again, thank you for coming. We really would appreciate it if you could help us get these tables and chairs out of here. Thanks again, Lois.